us a little bit? Excited to play tomorrow?
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever, right? So, really excited to be back in Millette, and I know our kids are super excited, so it should be fun tomorrow.
All right, and then questions for her.
Coach, how they handled the 9 days, I guess, between games and staff and yourself. I'm sure it's been a mental challenge.
What hasn't been a mental challenge this year, it's just one more thing. But I don't know. I think at this point, we're a lot of things, but resilient is one of those things. I actually think it was good for us because we're beat up. So,
Coach, you got muted there.
can you hear me?
Got you now. You were just saying that you guys were a little beat up.
Yeah. We're a little beat up, and so we're limited with roster size right now. I think everybody knows that. It just gave us some time, though, to really focus on skill development, which is something we need. So we were able to spend 2 days of just really intentional skill work, and then we spent the other 2 days of just small group. Let's put some concepts together. So I feel really good about the improvements that we've made this week in that respect. The last 2 days we've had some team practices and started to talk more about both. So actually really excited how the week went, even without being able to play.
What'd you see in the tape from Notre Dame? I know it's a small sample size, but when I talked to you after the game, you felt encouraged. You still feel the same way?
I do. We played kids that hadn't played more than 10 minutes a game, so there were a lot of players that were young and experienced, but they did the best they could. I think in the second half you could tell those players that haven't played more than 10 minutes just, number one, got mentally tired as well as physically tired. So I think the turnovers were definitely an issue, and those were momentum shifts that we definitely talked about. But if you take out probably 2 to 3 stretches of that game, 2-minute increments, then we're right there. So very, very encouraged after Notre Dame.
Coach, I know this was one of the games that you were looking forward to, not only for the challenge, but also what you can learn from this game going into like the Ohio game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, very similar to Ohio. Actually, Coach Evans worked for Bob Bolden, and so they run a very similar system. Their strengths are our weaknesses, and so it's going to challenge us in that regard. Like, we have to be able to ball contain and have some pride in our one-on-one defense, which from the start of this year is something that we as a staff wanted to take a lot of pride in. And so this will be our first test of, are we able to do that? Did that translate? I think the other part is that they have a talented team. So you're not talking about 1 or 2 players. You're talking about kids that literally can go off at any moment. So really just being focused in on a complete scouting report with 8 players when you're talking about personnel. So just going to test our maturity in a lot of ways. I'm pretty excited about it.
They got everybody's attention when they went back-to-back against Big Ten teams. Is that a fluke, or is that the real thing?
It's not a fluke at all. They are a well-coached, disciplined team, and so I think anybody they play, it's going to be the battle of who's more disciplined, and they're going to expose you if you're not. And so I think just going into this game, we've talked to our kids, obviously, about how they have beat Power 5 teams, but more importantly, how they beat them was based on the focus and the intention and long story short, discipline. So no, it's not a fluke. They will expose you if you let them. But at the end of the day, if you know their strengths and you can take those away, I feel good about it.
You talk about the discipline, and you're coming off a game, and obviously the first time on the floor and that sort of thing. You had 23 turnovers in the game against Notre Dame. And I know that's what you're talking about. One of the things when you're talking about discipline is being able to take care of the basketball, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us, a team that wants to play up tempo, you have to live with some turnovers. The difference is talking to our players about live ball turnovers versus dead ball turnovers. if we're trying to run in transition and you throw it out of bounds and you allow us to set our defense up, I'm okay with that. The problem was we put too many live ball turnovers together. And that's the momentum shifts that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, we watched that. We watched it a couple times now. When do we want to run? When do we want to be patient? When do we have to execute, and being more cognizant of those things?